The raven came at dawn, black wings slicing through the cold air of Winterfell. Bran Stark, still weak and bedbound after his fall, sat up with sudden urgency. He had seen something in his dreams again, not just dreams, he was sure of it now. They felt too real. This time he had seen his father, Lord Eddard Stark, kneeling, a sword ready to take his head. Behind him stood a boy king with golden hair and a queen whose eyes held no mercy. He had seen death. His father's death. Bran screamed. Maester Luwin rushed in, along with old Nan and Hodor. He couldn't stop shaking. "It was just a dream," Nan whispered softly, stroking his hair. But Bran knew better. He'd seen too much to believe it was just in his head. This was the third time he'd seen it clearer than before. First, there was only fear. Then came faces. This time, there was blood. "No," Bran said firmly. "We have to warn father." Maester Luwin gave him a look of concern. "Your father is in King's Landing, Bran. It would take days for a raven to reach him." "Then send it now," Bran insisted, trembling. "Tell him not to trust the Queen. Tell him not to go to the throne room. Please, Maester, please." Luwin hesitated, but something in Bran's eyes convinced him. He'd always believed Bran had a stronger mind than most boys his age, clever, observant. And these past weeks since the fall, there were changes. "I'll write the message," the Maester said quietly. Bran's letter was short. He dictated the words carefully. "Father, do not trust Queen Cersei. Do not go to the throne room. They mean to kill you. I saw it. Please be careful. Bran." The raven flew fast. In King's Landing, Ned Stark sat alone in the Tower of the Hand, the candle burning low beside him. He had decided to confront Cersei Lannister the next morning, to reveal what he knew, that her children were not King Robert's, but Jaime's. He believed honor would protect him, that telling the truth would bring justice. He never expected a raven from Bran. When it came, his hands trembled, opening the scroll. Bran's handwriting was shaky, but it was his son's voice in every word. "Do not trust Queen Cersei. Do not go to the throne room. They mean to kill you." Ned stared at the paper for a long time. The boy had always been thoughtful, but now, how could he know this? Still, something about the letter made him pause. He didn't sleep that night. By dawn, his plan had changed. He didn't go to the throne room. He didn't confront Cersei. Instead, he sent a trusted knight, Sir Vion Poole, to deliver a message to Renly Baratheon. Then he summoned Littlefinger. "You once said you'd help me secure the throne for the rightful heir," Ned said coldly. "You meant it?" Littlefinger smiled slyly. "I always mean what I say, my lord. Just not always what you think I mean." Ned ignored the remark. "Then gather the City Watch. Tell them they are now loyal to King Robert's true heir, Stannis Baratheon." Littlefinger blinked. That was unexpected. "Stannis? Not Renly?" "Stannis is Robert's brother, older. He has the stronger claim. And no charm to win hearts, but very well." Ned didn't trust Littlefinger. Not truly. But he didn't trust anyone in this snake pit of a city. Bran's warning haunted him, and now he could feel the danger surrounding him like cold steel. That evening, Cersei waited in the throne room. She wore a quiet smile. The gold cloaks were ready. Sir Meryn Trant stood near her, his hand on his sword. They expected Ned to arrive proud, predictable, Ned to accuse, to shout, to stand tall and fall harder. But Ned Stark didn't come. Not that day. Instead, a different kind of war began. The throne room echoed with silence. Queen Cersei glanced at the golden cloaks lining the hall, her lips tight, her patience thinner with every passing second. "Where is he?" she asked Sir Meryn. "He was seen leaving the Tower of the Hand at dawn," the knight replied, uneasy. "But he never came here." That was not like Eddard Stark. Cersei had expected honor to make him bold, and boldness would have made him careless. But now, something had changed. She stood, her voice slicing through the air like a blade. "Find him." As her men scattered, the Queen's calm broke just a little. Meanwhile, Lord Eddard Stark walked swiftly through the Red Keep, cloaked in plain brown, face half hidden. 2 of his own men shadowed him as he made his way to the docks. Sir Davos Seaworth, an ally sent quietly by Stannis, awaited him with a small ship and bigger news. Stannis had moved. He had declared himself rightful king and was gathering loyal bannermen in Dragonstone. Ned's raven, warning of Cersei's children being bastards, had reached him in time. "Lord Stark," Davos said, bowing low. "Lord Stannis wants you to know your truth saved him, and it might save the realm." Ned nodded grimly. "Only if the people believe it." Back in the keep, chaos had begun. Renly Baratheon had vanished in the night with Loras Tyrell and 50 men. Littlefinger returned to the Queen and lied easily, claiming Ned had fallen ill and delayed his meeting. Cersei wasn't buying it anymore. She paced her chamber, furious. "He knows," she said aloud. "He's playing a game now. So be it." She summoned Jaime. That same night, Varys appeared in Ned's quarters like a shadow. Maester Pycelle had informed him that Ned had not returned, and Varys, master of whispers, suspected something deeper. He found only a servant girl brushing out the ashes in the fireplace. "The hand has fled," Varys whispered to himself, lips curling slightly. "And the game has changed." He wasn't wrong. The next morning, King Robert lay dead, the wine, the hunt, the boar. It had all come together to finish him. But now, there was no Ned Stark at his side, no signature on the fake will naming Joffrey king, no support from the north. Instead, a sealed document appeared on the small council table signed by Stannis Baratheon and Eddard Stark, declaring the boy king a product of incest and illegitimate. The document spread faster than wildfire through the streets. Varys accidentally let it fall into the hands of a merchant. Gold changed hands, so did rumors. The whispers grew. The Queen's children aren't the king's. The king's brother is the true heir. Lord Stark has evidence. Riots began that very afternoon. And through it all, Ned remained in hiding, waiting. On the 3rd day after Robert's death, Ned met with a hidden ally, Barristan Selmy, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. The old knight, disillusioned and tired of serving snakes, listened in silence as Ned spoke the truth. "You believe this?" Ned asked him. Barristan's face was carved in stone. "I believe the boy looks nothing like the king, and I believe the Queen has lied more than she's ruled. Yes, I believe it. And will you help me bring justice?" Barristan paused. "I will help the realm, not any one man." But that was enough. With Barristan's quiet support, Ned had something stronger than sword's honor from within the court itself. Cersei, cornered and desperate, began threatening open war. She held Sansa as a hostage. Joffrey sat on the throne, crowning himself king, despite the storm building outside the Red Keep. But the City Watch had already begun to shift gold cloaks, questioning orders, captains taking coin from both sides. Lord Baelish had vanished. Even the Queen's allies were uneasy. Then came the moment that changed everything. A letter from Winterfell Bran had seen again. This time he saw fire and blood in King's Landing. A red wedding of sorts, but not the one we know. He warned his father again, "Don't trust the bells, don't trust the fire." Ned read it thrice. The bells rang the next morning, and the fire was real. The bells tolled across King's Landing, loud and haunting. They were supposed to mean peace. But as Bran had warned, the sound felt more like a death knell than a celebration. Eddard Stark stood on a rooftop overlooking the Red Keep, his eyes locked on the smoke starting to rise from the lower districts. It had begun not a war declared with swords, but with whispers, fire, and fear. The bells rang for Robert's funeral. The boy Joffrey, smug in crimson and gold, was to declare himself king that very day. Cersei stood proudly behind him, her chin high, her hand resting protectively on her son's shoulder. But the crowd had changed. The rumors had reached them carried by fishwives and cobblers, whispered in wine-houses and brothels. The Queen's son is no king, the lioness slept with her brother, the stag is dead, and the wolf is hiding. Ned had prepared for this day. He had chosen not to appear at the coronation. Instead, he sent a different kind of message. A dozen scrolls, copied by his most trusted scribe, delivered across Westeros to every major house, including House Arryn, House Tully, and the Greyjoys. The truth would not die with him this time. In the streets, the tension exploded. A baker threw a rotten apple at Joffrey's carriage. A butcher shouted, "Where's Stannis?" Another voice cried out, "Bring us Lord Stark." Then came the flames. Someone, perhaps a loyalist to Cersei or perhaps an agent of chaos, had set fire to 3 warehouses in Flea Bottom. Panic followed. Fire licked the sky as hundreds ran, screamed, and trampled each other. Smoke filled the air just as Joffrey's carriage rolled into the square. Cersei tried to calm her son, but Joffrey, proud and cruel, stood up inside the carriage and shouted at the crowd, "I am your king!" A rock hit his cheek, drawing blood. The Queen screamed. The King's Guard rushed forward. Swords were drawn. Barristan Selmy tried to restore order, but by then the gold cloaks were no longer listening to anyone. Some sided with the Queen, some stood still, and some turned their swords against each other. It was no longer a coronation. It was a battlefield. In a hidden chamber beneath the Sept of Baelor, Varys met with Eddard Stark once again. "The city is cracking," Varys said softly, hands folded. "You've stirred the nest, my lord." "I didn't stir it," Ned replied, jaw tight. "I told the truth. The lies were already rotting the walls." Varys tilted his head. "And yet you remain alive. Curious, isn't it?" Ned said nothing. He didn't trust Varys, but he understood him. The spider didn't serve people, he served the realm. And right now, the realm was bleeding. "Cersei will try to run," Ned said. "She won't wait to see if the city holds. And if she escapes, she won't." True to Ned's word, Cersei was already planning her flight. Joffrey sat weeping in her chambers, his pride bruised and his cheek bandaged. Myrcella and Tommen clung to each other in the corner, too young to understand the danger. "We'll leave tonight," Cersei told Jaime, who stood by the door in golden armor, his jaw clenched. "We'll take the children. We'll sail to Casterly Rock. Let Stannis choke on this filthy city." But Jaime had doubts. The city was crawling with Stannis's spies and Stark's men. Even some Lannister bannermen had begun to question Joffrey's claim. Maybe we send the children first," Jaime suggested. "If something happens—" "No." Cersei's voice turned to venom. "No one touches them. They go with me." That's when the door creaked, and Arya Stark stepped into the room, dagger in hand. No longer the lost little girl, no longer afraid. "Hello, Queen." Cersei Lannister turned slowly, her breath catching as she laid eyes on Arya Stark. The girl had changed. Her hair was shorter, her clothes ragged, her eyes fierce and sharp, too sharp for a child. She held a small blade, nothing special, but in her grip it looked like a fang waiting to strike. Jaime's hand went to his sword immediately, but Arya didn't flinch. She stepped further into the Queen's chambers, her voice calm despite the fear racing through her veins. "Try it," she said to the Kingslayer. "You won't reach me before I cut her throat." Cersei laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "You stupid little wolf! You think this is a game?" "No," Arya said, locking eyes with her. "I know what this is. My father's blood is almost on your hands. You wanted him dead. But he knew. He sent letters. And now the whole city knows your children are lies." Joffrey whimpered. Myrcella began to cry softly. Tommen clung to a servant's hand. Arya didn't look at them. Only Cersei. The queen's face twisted in rage. "You filthy northern brat. You know nothing. You have no idea the things I've done to protect them." Arya's blade twitched. "Like throwing Bran from a tower?" That stopped the room. Even Jaime's breath caught. "You should have killed me then," Arya whispered, "because now I'm not a little girl anymore." Jaime took a step forward, hands raised. "Arya, don't do this. We can talk." She smiled bitterly. "You pushed my brother. You stood there while the Queen tried to kill my father. You laughed at my pain. You're not here to talk." Jaime didn't deny it. But before another word could be spoken, the door behind Arya burst open, and Sandor Clegane, the Hound, stormed in, dragging a bleeding gold cloak by the collar. "Gods," he growled, seeing the scene. "Arya," he said, eyes narrowing, "step away from the mad lioness." "I'm not finished," she said, through gritted teeth. "You will be if you die in this room," the Hound barked. "This ain't your fight, girl." "She's my queen," Jaime snapped, drawing his sword now. The Hound spat. "Then you picked the wrong side, pretty boy." Tension hung thick in the air, 4 steps away from bloodshed. Then Cersei, ever the schemer, raised her voice. "Let her kill me," she hissed, her voice laced with venom. "Let her do it. Then see what happens when the city burns with my children inside. Do it, little wolf. Be a killer like the rest of us." Arya stared at her. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then she did something none of them expected. She turned the blade around and tossed it to the ground. "I'm not like you," Arya said quietly. "I want justice, not blood." Then she turned and walked out. The Hound followed, chuckling low. "You've got more balls than most men I've known, girl." Outside, the streets were in chaos. Fire still raged in parts of the city. The gold cloaks had split, some loyal to Joffrey, some to Stannis, and some to Coin. But the common people were done. They didn't trust thrones or crowns anymore. They wanted truth. And they believed. Ned Stark. Ned, hidden in the sept under Varys's protection, had begun organizing his allies. Davos Seaworth arrived with fresh men from Dragonstone. Sir Barristan, having publicly laid down his white cloak in protest of Joffrey's false rule, now stood beside Ned. Even some of the city's septons, once too afraid to speak, began preaching of the Queen's sins. It was no longer politics, it was rebellion. But Ned knew something was still wrong. He received another raven that night. From Bran. This time, the letter had only 5 words. "The lioness will strike first." Ned's heart pounded. He knew what it meant. Cersei wouldn't run. She would burn the city before she gave it up. The night felt unnaturally quiet. Too quiet for a city tearing itself apart. Lord Eddard Stark stood at the balcony of a hidden chamber in the sept, staring at the flickering lights below. Fires burned in the distance. Flea Bottom was half ash. The docks were swarmed with confused crowds, all trying to flee a city that felt cursed. But Bran's raven had shaken Ned more than the unrest outside. The lioness will strike first. Cersei had lost control of the city. Her men were scattered, the gold cloaks were divided, the people hated her. Yet the lioness was not a creature that died quietly. She killed loudly, with teeth and claws and flames. Ned turned to Sir Barristan Selmy. "If she means to kill the city," Barristan nodded grimly, "she will start with you, and Stannis's allies." Davos Seaworth approached with a worried frown. "My lord, We found something. Something you need to see. Ned followed them down a narrow stone staircase into the depths of the sept. The smell of cold stone and old incense filled the passages until they reached a locked chamber. Davos pushed the door open. Inside were 4 barrels. Thick, heavy barrels, with a strange, sickly green wax seal. Ned felt his heart drop. It can't be. Davos nodded. Aye, wildfire. The very substance that exploded brighter than dragon flame. The same fuel that burned ships, cities, men, everything. Hidden here, Ned whispered. Why? Barristan looked ill. The Mad King once stored wildfire all over the city. His pyromancers hid it beneath the Red Keep, the streets, even the sept. Most of it was removed years ago. Most, Ned repeated slowly. Davos stepped closer. And someone moved these 4 barrels recently. There are drag marks. Someone intended to use them. Ned closed his eyes. Cersei. Bran had seen fire, bells, death, and now it made sense. If she could not hold the throne, she would destroy the pieces so no one else could claim them. A lioness, Barristan muttered, voice grave, cornered and crazed. Ned turned sharply. We must stop her. Meanwhile, in the Red Keep, Cersei was already setting her plan in motion. Her face was pale, her hair unkempt, her eyes sharp with madness and hate. She looked more like a witch than a queen now. Qyburn bent low beside her. The wildfire is in place, Your Grace, hidden in the lower tunnels. All it takes is one spark. Cersei whispered, If they want my children dead, if they want my crown, then they will burn with me. Jaime paced the room, armor clinking. Cersei, listen to yourself. Killing innocents, burning the city. This isn't you. This is exactly me, she snapped. Everything I did was for our children, and now they want to kill them because of who their father is. Jaime lowered his voice. I won't let you do this. You can't stop me, she hissed. Not even you. For the first time in their lives, Jaime Lannister felt fear when looking at her. Arya Stark and the Hound were making their way toward the Red Keep the same night. Arya's heart beat fast. She wanted revenge, but after seeing the Queen earlier, something was different inside her. She's going to do something terrible, Arya muttered. The Hound grunted. Queens always do. As they reached the outer gate, they saw Lannister soldiers dragging more barrels into the tunnels beneath the keep. Green wax, heavy wood, wildfire. Arya's chest tightened. We have to warn my father. No time, the Hound said. If that fire goes up, we'll all be ash. We stop it here. Arya nodded. For once, they were on the same side. Back in the sept, Ned moved with purpose. Barristan gathered loyal knights. Davos sent his fastest men to warn the city watch. But even with all of them, Ned knew they were racing against death. Varys appeared like a shadow. Lord Stark, he whispered urgently, the Queen has fled toward the lower tunnels. The wildfire will be lit soon. You have minutes, maybe less. Ned grabbed his sword. For my family, he said softly. For the realm. He rushed out into the night, Barristan beside him, Davos not far behind, as the city trembled under the weight of a coming inferno. And far below, the Red Keep. Cersei Lannister walked with a torch in her hand, smiling, ready to burn the world. The tunnels beneath the Red Keep were thick with smoke and silence. Cersei Lannister walked slowly, a torch in her right hand, her golden gown dragging across the damp stone. Behind her trailed Qyburn, pale and eager, and 2 silent Lannister guards carrying flint and oil-soaked rags. The barrels of wildfire waited ahead, stacked like a dragon's nest, glowing faintly green in the torchlight. All my life, Cersei whispered, more to herself than anyone. Men have told me where to stand, what to say, who to love, who to serve. But no one ever told me what happens when the lioness decides to bite back. Qyburn nodded reverently. Let it all burn, your grace. They never deserved your mercy. Cersei paused before the barrels. Let them watch their dreams turn to ash. She lifted the torch. And then steel flashed in the dark. A blade pierced one of the guards from behind, and he dropped without a sound. The other turned, only to be cut down by a second figure. Out from the shadows stepped Arya Stark, her face smeared with soot, eyes blazing. The hound followed, dragging his bloody sword through the dirt. "Not today," Arya said coldly. Cersei's eyes went wide. "You again?" "Still breathing," Arya replied. "But if you light that torch, none of us will be." The Queen raised the flame higher, defiant. "Then we'll all die together." But Jaime appeared. He had followed her. He looked wild, torn between love, fear, and duty. "Cersei, drop it," he said. "Please." She turned to him, tears threatening. "They're going to take everything, Jaime. Our children, our name, our legacy. I won't let them." "If you do this," Jaime said softly, stepping toward her, "you're no different than the Mad King." That made her pause. Jaime walked closer, slowly, hand raised. Arya's grip tightened on her blade. The hound was already inching toward the barrels, examining the seals. "Don't move," Cersei warned, holding the torch over the nearest barrel. "One more step, and I'll do it." And then, crack. The wall behind them caved in as Ned Stark, Sir Barristan Selmy, and Davos Seaworth burst through the tunnel entrance. "Stand down," Ned shouted. "Cersei, this is over." Everything froze. The air hung heavy with fear and fire. Jaime looked from Cersei to Ned. "She'll do it," he said quietly. "She's not bluffing." Cersei smiled bitterly. "He finally knows me." Arya stepped forward. "You won't light it. You want power too much to die." Cersei's eyes flicked toward her daughter's name, etched into the nearest barrel. "Try me." But then, behind her, Sansa's voice. "Mother?" Everyone turned. Sansa Stark stood at the tunnel's far end, flanked by a breathless Varys and a pair of Stark guards. Her dress was torn, but her face was calm, her eyes filled with pain. Cersei's hand trembled. Sansa looked at her the way a daughter might look at a once beautiful woman now turned ghost. "This isn't you," she said. "You're not a queen. You're not a mother. You're just scared." Cersei's face twisted. "You know nothing of fear." "I know enough," Sansa replied, stepping closer. "You raised me on lies, taught me to smile while bleeding. But this is madness. Madness is survival," Cersei hissed. "No," Sansa said quietly. "This is surrender." The torch in Cersei's hand dipped lower. Ned's heart raced. "Sansa, get back." But Jaime stepped in. He lunged forward and slapped the torch from her hand. It fell, but landed on cold stone. No spark, no fire, no explosion. Cersei screamed and lunged at him, clawing at his face. Jaime held her tight as she kicked and wept, shaking with fury. "You were mine," she sobbed. "We had it all." "It's over," he whispered, holding her close. "It's over, Cersei." Ned stepped forward, eyes never leaving the barrels. "Take her." Barristan nodded. "She will answer for all of it." And for the first time in weeks, Ned Stark breathed. The lioness had been caged. The fire had been stopped. But the war for the throne? That was only just beginning. The dawn broke grey over King's Landing. Smoke still curled from the ruins of Flea Bottom, but the fires had died. The people whispered in tight circles, pointing at the Red Keep, where banners of the lion once flew, but had now been torn down. In their place, a black stag on a gold field flapped in the cool morning wind, Stannis Baratheon's sigil. And beside it, the dire wolf of House Stark. The capital had changed overnight. Inside the throne room, Lord Eddard Stark stood before the Iron Throne. His boots echoed in the silent hall, his eyes scanning every face, lords, knights, guards, and commoners, packed inside to witness what they'd never expected, the fall of Cersei Lannister. She knelt in chains before him, her golden hair tangled, her lips cracked but defiant. Her children had been taken from her, not harmed, but separated under Stark protection. Myrcella and Tommen were too young to understand, and Joffrey, well, even locked in his chamber, he screamed for blood like a caged dog. "Cersei Lannister," Ned said, his voice firm and loud, "you stand accused of treason, murder, attempted regicide, and conspiracy against the crown." She didn't blink. "Your crown," she spat, "or Stannis Baratheon's?" Ned glanced to the side, where Sir Davos stood tall, and nodded. "The true heir sits in Dragonstone. He comes soon to take his throne lawfully." "You're a fool," Cersei said, rising shakily to her feet. "You think men will follow Stannis? He inspires fear, not loyalty. You think the people will kneel for a man they don't even know?" "They'll kneel for justice," Ned said coldly. "Something you never gave them." She laughed, dry, bitter. "You think this is justice? Ripping children from their mother? Locking a queen in chains like a common thief?" Ned didn't flinch. "You were never a queen. You were a liar, a poisoner, a mother who made monsters and called them kings." Her eyes flashed. "You won't survive this, Stark. You're no politician. This city will eat you alive." "Let it try," Ned replied. He turned to the crowd. "Cersei Lannister will stand trial. Her crimes will be judged by a council of lords and ladies, including House Tyrell, Martell, Arryn, and Tully. No more backroom deals. No more whispers. Only truth." Murmurs spread through the room. Some nodded. Others frowned. But none dared speak out. The guards took Cersei away. She didn't scream. She only smiled, a twisted, knowing grin that sent a chill through even Arya's spine. "She's planning something," Arya said later as she stood beside her father. "She won't go down without more blood." "I know," Ned said quietly. "That's why we can't make mistakes now." By nightfall, ravens flew to every major house in Westeros. Some responded quickly. House Arryn pledged their support. The Riverlands, led by Catelyn's brother Edmure, promised to send men. The Martells remained silent, still bitter over Elya's death, but watching. But the biggest question remained: the Lannisters. Tywin Lannister had not answered. His army remained camped in the west, quiet and ominous. His daughter was in chains, his grandchildren claimed illegitimate, his house humiliated. And yet no retaliation. That silence was heavier than any threat. In his solar, Ned sat with Sansa, Arya, and Maester Luwin. Sansa hadn't spoken much since her confrontation with Cersei. Her voice was quieter, her face sharper. She no longer wore silks, only a plain grey dress. "Am I a hostage?" she asked her father. Ned looked up, surprised. "No, you're my daughter." "Then why do I feel like I'm still trapped?" she whispered. Arya clenched her fists. "Because the snakes are still in the city." Ned exhaled. "This city, it will never truly be clean, but we can keep it from drowning in poison again." Maester Luwin entered with a scroll in hand. His face was pale. "What is it?" Ned asked. "It's from Tywin Lannister," Luwin said. Ned stood, took the scroll, and read. As his eyes moved down the parchment, his expression changed from concern to tension to quiet horror. "He's marching," Ned said. "He's gathering bannermen and marching for King's Landing." Arya's eyes widened. "How many men?" Ned folded the scroll slowly. 40,000. The drums of war echoed from the west. Lord Tywin Lannister, Warden of the West, had gathered his armies with terrifying speed. 40,000 men marched under crimson banners, the golden lions snarling across the plains. They moved with precision, discipline, and vengeance. He said nothing of peace. He offered no terms. His daughter was in chains, his blood was insulted. And Tywin Lannister did not forgive. Inside the walls of King's Landing, Ned Stark stood upon the battlements, watching the horizon. He had seen war before, smelled it, lived it, survived it. But this felt different. The city was not ready. Too many had already died in the fires. The gold cloaks were still divided, the gates had been repaired, but the hearts of the people remained cracked. No one trusted anyone anymore. Behind him, Stannis Baratheon had finally arrived. Grim and cold as the sea winds he rode in on, he brought 15,000 men, all loyal to the crown, the real crown. He did not smile. He did not embrace Ned. He simply said, "We hold the city, or we die trying." That was Stannis. No speeches, no comfort, only duty. The lords met in the Tower of the Hand. Around the table sat Davos, Barristan Selmy, Jon Royce from the Vale, Edmure Tully, and a few loyal bannermen from the Reach and Stormlands. Sansa and Arya were kept under guard in the Red Keep. Bran remained in Winterfell under Robb's protection, and Robb had sent word that the North stood with their father. Still, it felt like a fragile alliance. Ned broke the silence. "Tywin will not parley. He comes for blood," Edmure grunted. "Let him come. The walls of King's Landing have held against worse." "Not with a city this broken," Davos said quietly. "We're half ready at best. The people are starving, frightened, and the Lannisters have gold. Gold buys blades, even from inside." Stannis leaned forward. "Then we give them nothing. No fear, no food, no chance to divide us. We hold this city with discipline, or we lose it to fire and steel." Ned looked at him. "And what happens if we win? Do you expect the realm to love you?" Stannis's jaw tightened. "I don't need their love, only their loyalty." Barristan sighed. "Then we'd better earn it by surviving." That night, Arya couldn't sleep. She stood near the window, blade in hand, watching the stars. Every time she blinked, she saw fire. Cersei's madness, Joffrey's screams, the wildfire barrels. Her father bleeding in some vision she couldn't forget. Sansa sat on the bed, brushing her hair. Quietly, she said, "Do you think we'll live through this?" Arya didn't answer right away. "I think we'll fight," she said finally. "And whatever happens, we won't run." Sansa nodded. "I used to dream of marrying a king, now I dream of peace." They looked at each other, older, hardened, and closer than they'd ever been. Sisters, forged by war. 3 days later, the Lannister army reached the gates. They made no demands. They set up siege towers, lined the hills with catapults, and began pounding the outer walls. By night, fire reigned. By dawn, bodies lay heaped along the trenches. The air stank of blood and ash. But King's Landing held. Stannis and Ned fought side by side, commanding units, reinforcing the weakest points. Arya helped in the healing tents, her hands soaked in red. Sansa read letters to the wounded, whispered prayers to the dying. Then came the turning point. One of the gates cracked. Lannister soldiers poured through like a wave of death, hundreds, maybe thousands. They pushed deep into the city, looting, killing, laughing. The bells rang again, this time in terror. Ned and Barristan rode hard through the inner streets, blades drawn. They met the enemy in the heart of the city, and there, beneath the statue of Baelor the Blessed, steel clashed louder than any prayer. Ned fought like a wolf, surrounded. Barristan was silent death in white armor. And then Tywin Lannister entered the city. Clad in full gold plate, he rode through the gate like a god of war, his bannermen screaming his name. The battle seemed lost, until the North arrived. Robb Stark had marched faster than any believed possible. With 10,000 Northmen and Howland Reed's green-cloaked swamp warriors, they came crashing into the Lannister rear like a winter storm. The tide turned. Lannister lines broke. Tywin fought hard, but was cornered. He stared at Ned, bleeding from the shoulder, surrounded by enemies. "You should have killed her," Tywin said coldly. "Mercy is weakness." "No," Ned replied, raising his sword. "Mercy is what separates us from monsters." He did not kill Tywin. He took him in chains like his daughter. When it was over, the Red Keep was still standing. Cersei and Tywin were prisoners. Joffrey was sent to the Wall. Tommen and Myrcella were taken to Dragonstone wards of the crown. Stannis Baratheon was crowned king, cold, just, unloved, but obeyed. And Ned? Ned returned to Winterfell, tired, scarred, but alive. His children had survived the Game of Thrones, and for the first time in years, Westeros had peace. For now,